What's up, YouTube? Welcome back or to the channel. Back out in the garage again, like I always am. Seems like I live out here, which is totally fine with me. Keeps my mind occupied and my hands busy. Got the old 1500 back in the garage, getting ready to knock another mod out on it, if you will. And the topic of today's subject is going to be mirrors and how they don't have any running lights on them. So the 1500s, and I'm not sure 110%. Let me turn the headlights off there. But the 1500s, when you have the running lights on, as you can see, you have no running light in the mirror. And I am going to remedy all of that today. Now, my 2500, my Gen 4 2500, didn't have running lights in the mirrors either. I had to do this conversion on it as well. I talked about that in my last video when I put the BoostAutoParts switchback lights in my 3500 mirrors there. So, the 3500s, however, and I don't know about above that, but the 3500s, it comes from the factory with the actual running light and blinker in the mirror. So that BoostAutoPart switchback, so all I had to do was change out the lights in the mirror and the tow mirrors, and we were good to go. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated than that. They actually sell a kit, and this is their 2.0 kit for the 5th gen mirrors, the non-tow mirror, if you will. So the smaller mirrors, like what's on my 3500 here. And these little modules are what's going to turn the mirrors into running lights and blinkers. So their 2.0 version is a little bit different, obviously, than their 1.0 version. I had the 1.0 version on my 2500 on my Power Wagon. That's what I started off with the BoostAutoParts stuff. And the 1.0 version, basically your running light comes on dim in the mirror, and then when it blinks, it gets bright, goes back to dim, gets bright, goes back to dim. Okay, now the 2.0 version of that, the running light's going to be brighter, so it's going to be on brighter. And then the blinking function, the light goes off and comes on like a normal blinker should. So in order to do this, we got to get access into the doors, because we got to get to the mirror harness that's down in here. These doors are pretty simple to pull apart here. You got a piece of plastic here you got to pop out. There's a screw. This has to come out, so get your your plastic trim tool, pop that out. You got another little piece of plastic here that has to pop out. Get all those screws out, and then use your trim tool. Start at the bottom. I usually start at one of the corners and start popping this around. And then once you get everything popped off, you have to lift up, because you got to clear the lock here. And you can lift straight up and pull off. And then with the 1500s here, so I've had this apart before, the cable has to be pulled out of the handle. So when you get this up and back, it's not going to come off, so you don't want to pull real hard. And there's going to be a little clip in there that I'll show you guys that you got to squeeze, and that'll release the cable that goes to the handle, and then you can go ahead and get the door panel out of the way. So let me get set up for that. I'll run you guys through this side. We're going to be running wires. There's a module in here where everything plugs into inside the door, but we're going to be running wires from the door through this boot into the cab on both sides. So, and then the wiring is going to end up in here. We're going to have to stretch one side from over there to this side, and then we'll finalize it all right underneath there somewhere, once I get my big head under there and figure out where it's at. So, let me get you all set up on the tripod here, and I'll show you how to get this door ripped apart. Give me just a second. Alright, you guys should be able to see this door pretty good like that. So I usually start right here Use my little plastic tool, get underneath the front of this control box here, kind of pry up. And this bad boy will pop right out just like that. Push your button, pull your plug right out. Piece one. Then I use my pry tool, my little pick I should say, and get right underneath this. This little piece of plastic in here has got a little spot at the bottom of it. Try not to drop it down in the door. And you pop that out. And then I believe that's a 10 mil bolt in there. But that's a little cutout piece right there that I got my pick underneath. No big deal. That's the next piece. And then you got a piece the same in here, and that little cutout is at the top. So you kind of get in there and pop that piece out. Get your pick right underneath there. Kind of pull out on it, it'll pop right out and you won't damage it at all. And there's two 10 mils behind there. Alright, get your 10 mils out. There's 3 of them. Uno. Dos. Tres. Get 3 10 mils out. Now this thing should be pretty much ready to pop off. Use my other little pry tool. Kind of get underneath it here in this corner and just kind of pop it, and then I run my fingers around it and just pop as I go along. And then it'll pop right loose as you run along the edge of it. Sometimes can be a pain in the arse. So this piece of plastic here, and I never really see anybody say anything about it. Let me spin this a little bit. You got 2 pieces of plastic here. Okay, so this black piece that I got my finger on here is separate from the door panel itself. So you're not prying behind that, you're prying behind the door panel. If you put your fingers back there, you can feel one of the little clips that's got the door panel held in place. And then once you got everything popped loose, don't do what I just did and rip it off the door, but that just sits in there like that. That last little clip is right there at the top, so it's kind of hard to get out. And then this is what you're looking at on the inside. This is your cable here. So you're going to have to use, I know I brought a set over here. What do I do with them? Oh, there they are. Some needle nose pliers. And there's 2 little tabs that you got to squeeze in on this cable in order for it to slide through the door. And it's beyond me why Dodge made this like this, because it's a pain in the butt to hold this door panel. Squeeze these 2 tabs and pop this thing out. But once you get it popped out, you can pop the cable right out of it. That's it, your door panel's loose. Let me show you this cable a little bit more close up. So here's the cable. And there's the 2 tabs that you're squeezing in right there. And that'll pop right out. And then you're good. And then you got access down to the little box that you're going to be working on there. Which is right here. Alright, let me set this camera up a little lower and I'll show you guys what we're going to do there. Alright, so here we are. There's another piece of trim in here that you want to pop out, and it's this first section of this plastic door molding here. Obviously you got your plastic tools here already. Just kind of fit this underneath there and kind of evenly pull up. You can fill the clips underneath there, and this will pop right out as well. Just held in by clips, so it slides forward and then pushes down. Just all push clips. There you go. Well, that's all the access we're going to have to do what we need to do. So the next thing we need to do is get into this harness here, and we're going to get the wire and fish through into the cab. So let me get that set up, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Alright guys, on to the next steps here. So the next thing I did is this harness is held kind of around the speaker here with two little clips. Seeing how we're going to be working on this harness on the truck, I kind of popped those two clips loose. And the next thing I did was strip all this paper tape, or whatever the hell they call this stuff, back on the actual harness. So I can free up some spot. And the way that I do that, and again, you guys can check this stuff over out on BoostAutoParts webpage. They got the whole setup on how to do this on your truck. A couple things in there I kind of don't like the way that they do is the dude takes a razor blade, and that's not really focusing very good, but the dude takes a razor blade and kind of cuts down at this harness. That sort of freaks me out. So what I use is these ass hair trimmers. I think that's what they are, ass hair trimmers. At any rate, they're razor sharp, and I get this down into the underneath the tape here. And I know this is kind of blurry, guys. It's just kind of hard to hold this camera here, and I just kind of trim that tape back like that, and then you can kind of pull back on it, and it'll free it up, and then you can cut the excess off, and that prevents you from even nicking any of these, right? You don't want to nick any of the coating on any of these wires or anything, because that could cause you problems in the future. So we're going to be working with the black plug. So you got the black and the white here. Okay, they can only go in one way. Very hard to do with one hand. But the black, the white. Okay, so you pop those out. It's the black plug. I don't know if this is going to pick up, but I will try. This thing is actually marked on the back of it. I don't know if you can see that. I don't think zooming in is going to help. But at any rate, on this plug, the wires that you're going to be messing with are going to be spot 1 and spot 5. So color can vary on these, so you guys got to be real careful. Spot 1's the gray. Spot 5 is the brown. And if you flip the plug over and look at the back of it, it's marked in all four corners. 1, 5, and then the other is marked 5 or 6, 10. Okay, so just look at the back of the plug and make sure you're messing with pin 1 and pin 5, because that's what you're going to need to do to put this module in. All right, let me cut these. All right, guys, here's where we're at. So we got the module installed. So basically, this is the module that comes with it. That pin 1, as I showed you here, as I showed you a second ago, is the gray wire on this one. But make sure it's pin 1 on what you're working on. That's the one you're going to cut. And then pin 5 is what they're going to use for a ground. So you go back about the same amount of distance, use the T-tap from the kit, squeeze it onto that brown wire there coming out of pin 5, and then you put the module in. So the single side wire module, single side orange wire coming out of the module, goes on the end that goes up to the mirror there. Okay, so you don't want to put this in backwards. And then your blue wire coming out of the module is what goes into the other side of the gray wire on pin 1. So that's done. Once you get your T-tap on there for the Dodge applications. You're not going to use, locate the black wire, but on the Dodge applications, they don't use this fitting here. So you plug your wire right into your T-tap, and that is how the module is wired. Then you take the extra section of orange wire that they send in the kit, and you crimp, if I can say it straight. So you got the plug there, there's the fuse. All this stuff's going to stay behind the door. So on the plug side, which is the shorter side, that's what gets crimped into the orange wire coming out of the module. And that's all done. That's ready to be plugged back in up here. So obviously you got to clean all this mess up, which I'm going to do right now before I move forward. And then the other side of your orange wire gets ran up here, poke a hole in this boot, goes through this rubber boot, goes down into the door, comes through the rubber boot here, and then up through the connector that's going into the truck. And that's the next step that I'm going to work on now. I'm going to get all this wire cleaned up, and then I'll pop this connector out and show you how to run the wire through. Very simple. Alright guys, real quick update. So let me run you through this real quick. Got all the wire tied up here, tucked in around the speaker. So a couple of things that they don't tell you about, and they don't really mention over on the BoostAutoParts install videos, is they bring this connector up here. So they say you got to leave enough slack in this wire so this connector can come down around the speaker here, which is true, you do. They don't ever mention the fuse that's on that wire as well. I mean, I guess they kind of do when you're opening it up, but they never show where it goes. All that stuff has to stay inside the door, obviously, because you're not feeding any of that through this boot. So this boot is the biggest, let me turn my headlight off there, is the biggest pain in the butt out of this whole job. So basically this rubber boot's out, this one out, poke a hole in your little rubber here. I just used one of my pick tools, poked a hole in it, stretched the wire through there, pulled it out through the door. They show using like a coat hanger or something to feed through this. I just pull this all the way out and hold it straight up. And you can actually, if you take your time, you can feed the wire right through it, just sliding it up. Grab a hold of the end with a pair of needle nose pliers once it gets here. And then you're going to feed it through here. You guys can see that. And then we'll feed it into the cab. But I'm at this point now, I make sure all this stuff on the door is all wrapped up, secured, and ready to go. And then I make sure the wire that's running into the door and coming into this boot, that the slack is perfect on it. So that way I'm at this point and I know all this stuff here is all tied down. Because if you're anything like me, the last thing you want is when you put your door panel back on your truck and turn your favorite country western rap song on, is to hear a bunch of rattling in here. So you got to make sure all this stuff is tied together and tied down, and it's going to fit when you go put the the door panel back on. So that's the point I'm at now. I'm going to get this fed through that now, and basically all I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm just going to push it through, push it into the cab, and then I'll get up underneath inside the cab with my light, see where I can see it, and just drag it into the truck. They say this side's a little bit harder than the passenger side because the passenger side's wide open, which is why I started over here. So I'm going to get that done now, and then I'll show you guys what we got. I'm not going to film doing the other door because obviously the other door is done the exact same way as this one is. Alright, stand by one, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, here we go. This video is pretty long already, so I'm going to kind of try to be quick about this. So door's all back together. Obviously you can see door over there has all been taken apart and put back together, and this is the final little stretch of it here. Trying to shine some light down here, but basically you got the wire that stretches over from the passenger side, and then you got the wire that we drug in from the driver's side, both right here laying on the floorboard. I took this panel out. You don't necessarily need to take the lower panel out here off the dash, but I took it out so it's easier to see with the camera here, because we're getting access right here to this fuse box. And if memory serves, there's one of the 15 amp fuses here. I'm going to have to go back and look because I don't remember which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's this one right here. And I can't read it with the camera in front of me here. Let's see if I can zoom this in a little bit. They said it's 49. Yeah, so that's F49 right there. So 49 is the one we're after. So, wow, that's really hard to do zoomed in. We pull that out and then slap our fuse. Here, let me zoom this back out. Slap our fuse tap in there and tie both of those wires together into this butt connector, and that'll be the power that we need for it. So I'm not going to be able to do that with one hand. Let me do that real quick, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if this stuff works. I hope so. I put the doors all back together already. Alright guys, hold on a second. Alright guys, we're going to make this quick here because this video is pretty long. I went through quite a few details. We're getting ready to go to baseball practice anyway. Turn those off. This is what we got here. This is what the front end looks like now. Oh yeah, I'm digging those mirrors. I am digging those mirrors. Just with the non-toe 5th gen mirror, the lens in it, I think is pretty cool looking because it's a bigger lens. It's not just at the tip of the light like on the toe mirrors, so you get a lot more light there. Here, let me hit the blinker. And you'll see the 2.0 version goes on and off. There you go. That's BoostAutoParts. There's your blinker. Man, that's pretty bright too. And there's your running light. Pretty sweet. I dig it. I dig it. A little bit of work. I think it took me about 45 minutes to run through all that today. Turn all this stuff off. Alright guys. That's Alright guys, that's gonna wrap that one up. Another project done. Truck's looking good. What I like about those is you have to know what you're looking at to actually see what you see. Like the average person is going to pay no never mind to those, those running lights in the mirror on this truck. But somebody that knows is going to stop and ask and say, hey, how did you do that? I ran into that a lot with my Power Wagon. So those are the type of people I like. It's a conversation starter, right? They always want to know how you did it. So, all right, that's going to wrap this one up. You guys got any questions about anything? Throw them down in the comments as usual. And like I said, you can find all this stuff over on BoostAutoParts. And order up what you need. I've had them on 3 different trucks now. And I really enjoy them. All right, guys, that's it. Peace. I'm out of here.